Harper Audio presents In the Country of Brooklyn by Peter Golenbock. Read by William Dufris. Introduction. This is a recounting of the importance of immigrants to this land, with the spotlight on those who escaped war, hunger, and deprivation to come to Brooklyn. It is also the story of those whose bigotry and narrow-mindedness caused them to fight to keep out those who were different from them. I came to discover that those in power get to define who's a good guy and who's a bad guy. So American history marks as heroes politicians who were anti-democratic and anti-American, while those who fought for freedom, for racial equality, and for social justice were labeled as enemies of the state, arrested and imprisoned. I am hoping that In the Country of Brooklyn will allow the reader to take a second look at some of these heroes and villains. The Puritans, who came to America to escape religious persecution, set the standard. Conservatively Christian, the leaders like the Reverend Cotton Mather made the rules and set the punishments. Brooklyn, it turns out, was founded by a woman who left Salem to escape the Puritan madness. Though the Puritan sect no longer exists in America, its conservative brethren still do, and if you study the history of bigotry, Christian ministers and their followers were at the forefront of the segregationist and isolationist movements. The Christian South justified segregation using quotes from the Bible. The Ku Klux Klan was a faith-based organization. The White Citizens Council was made up of devout, church-going Christians. As for the hatred of the Jews, most presidents in office in the first half of the 20th century were anti-Semites, or exhibited anti-Semitic tendencies in their private lives. Woodrow Wilson was an anti-Semite. Franklin Roosevelt knew about the Holocaust and did nothing to help the victims. And Harry Truman's wife, Bess, vowed never to allow a Jew to set foot in her house. Congress wasn't any more tolerant. In 1921, Congress passed a bill effectively stopping the flood of Jews into this country, which resulted in the deaths of millions of Jews who had no place to run to when Hitler started wiping them out in Europe less than a generation later. The Irish and Italians also faced bigotry. Once in America, the Irish had to face bigotry from the WASPs. No Irish need-apply signs were routine. But once the Irish organized politically, they became a powerful force unto themselves. The Italians kept to themselves at first, but with each generation became more assimilated. The history of blacks in America is a whole different story. Blacks weren't barred from coming to America, but rather were brought to America against their will. Once here, they were enslaved. After the Civil War, they were marginalized, prevented from getting an education and from earning a decent living. After the war, the whites in America used all their political and financial power to keep the blacks subservient. Even as late as 1947, blacks were down so far that the very idea that a black man would be allowed to play Major League Baseball was revolutionary. As more and more Latinos came to America, they faced similar racist attitudes and made great strides with each generation. The last group fighting for their equal rights are the members of the gay community. As you will see, as people became used to living with those of other cultures, tolerance grows and bigotry dies. As a result, every generation becomes less and less bigoted. It has been estimated that by the year 2030, whites will no longer be the majority population of America. The ability and willingness of Americans to integrate the newcomers to this land will determine how we as a nation fare in the 21st century. Perhaps the experiences of the transformation of Brooklyn can be used as an example for the rest of America. While it's often said that New York City is not America, 1 in 7 Americans can trace their family back to Brooklyn. If your family came to America from another country, chances are pretty good your great-great-grandfather lived in Williamsburg or Flatbush or Bay Ridge or Brighton Beach before moving on to other places. The 70.61 square miles of Brooklyn include densely populated urban areas, suburban areas with beautiful private homes, public housing projects, and luxury high-rises, co-ops, and condos, and the type of building that will forever be associated with Brooklyn, the brownstone. There are beaches, swamps, city parks, state parks, and now...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?